Hey, hey, hey. Happy Monday. Come on in. Pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, incredibly enough, thegaminggang.com, which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard. I am back. It is October. It is a brand new month. That's right. Tonight is October 3rd, and this is live stream number 833. If you're not familiar with the show, it's super casual around here. We're not engaging in rocket surgery by any stretch of the imagination, just hanging out talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. And normally we take a first look at a game. Well, this month, probably going to be a quite different format because I am going to be sharing a lot of live reviews. That is right. Now, it is only for October, although every once in a while, I do share a review on the live stream. They tend to be kind of tough sometimes, especially with a lot of people in chat and questions kind of going back and forth in chat. So I don't do them a lot, but all throughout the month of October, each and every day, there is a new review from the Gaming Gang. Now, it could be a written review by Sammy or maybe one of our other contributors. You never know. You don't know. So Ronald might have a review for us. You don't know. But for the most part, they're going to be mainly video reviews. So I'm going to just kind of kill two birds with one stone and do quite a few of the reviews on the live stream. So speaking of reviews, tonight I am going to share my thoughts about Call of Cthulhu, A Time to Harvest, from Chaosium Inc. Yes, we're going to try to do a good number of horror RPGs, or at least as many as we possibly can, to kind of, get into the Halloween mood. So we are going to be diving on into this in just a bit. In case this is your first time experiencing the dispatch, do want to point out we do tackle the tabletop gaming news first. So if you are watching live, awaiting the review of A Time to Harvest, kick back, relax, put your feet up, probably be about 35 minutes, and then we will be getting on into it. Gotta say, some pretty cool news pieces today as well. If you are watching this after the stream ends, as long as it's 30 minutes or more after the stream has ended, then there are actually timestamps. So if you want to jump past the news, you can dive right on into the review itself by clicking on one of the timestamps, which are located in the show notes, or depending on what device you happen to be watching this on, might actually be right there in the timeline of the video itself. So there is that as well. When you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more that you won't find here on the YouTube channel. Lastly, it's a live stream. So that means there is chat available. It's not on screen. One of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay, but I do my best to pay attention to chat. So if you want to say howdy, maybe you got a question, a comment, by all means, please chime in. Although you must be a subscriber to the channel for at least 48 hours to be able to take part in chat. Yet another way I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. So first out the gate tonight was Sarah D. Yes, one of our chat moderators. Coco B is with us. Deja Vu. Zoinks. It's a case of Deja Vu, who I believe might be a first-time visitor. That nickname is not ringing a bell. Testy Trekkie is with us. Pointing out, I was like, where is the gaming gang today? And then it starts and I realize that Australian daylight savings has caught me again. Yes, we do have quite a few viewers outside of the US with the stream. The Motor City Madman is with us. Good to see the Madman, another of our chat moderators. MC is also hanging out in chat with us today. So, howdy everybody. I'm back. Did you miss me? Got to kick back, relax a little bit, recharge my batteries. Did a lot of reading because I have a lot of role-playing game reviews that are heading your way. I'm going to talk about them a little bit as well, a little later on when I wrap up the show, which you can be looking forward to not only the rest of this week, but into next week as well. ARM1384 has joined us in chat. Howdy, howdy, howdy. I believe this is a first-time visit for them, so welcome aboard. So anyway, I guess we're going to dive right on into the news because actually I've got quite a bit tonight and some pretty cool stuff. Arriving later on this month from Letiman Games is Adventure Tactics, Dominan's Tower. Here's the skinny. Sharpen your swords, ready your spells, gather your allies. I was almost going to say, eat your vegetables. The ruthless Queen Dominan rules the kingdom of Estelia with an iron fist, but an ancient prophecy has emerged which threatens her reign. The adventure starts in your humble village and eventually leads to the seat of Dominan's power, the peerless and ancient Tower of Greylock. I have the power! Oh, wait. That's Grayskull. Sorry about that. Adventure Tactics Dominan's Tower is an encounter-based, campaign-driven, cooperative tactical combat game. Say that 5 times fast. Begin your journey as one of 5 basic classes and battle your way through a branching campaign where you choose your own path in an attempt to overthrow the evil Queen Dominan. With each encounter, you'll level up and unlock over 15 elite classes, adding new actions, equipment, and abilities. Will your team find the right combination of classes and powers in time to stop evil Queen Dominan? Let the adventure begin. Adventure Tactics Dominan's Tower is for 1 to 5 players, ages 13 and up, plays around 45 to 60 minutes per scenario, because this is kind of a campaign game. I'm not sure if it's a legacy game. I don't think it is. But I do believe it is an ongoing campaign with scenarios. It does carry an MSRP of $100. So I am a bit curious. I don't know for sure. But we're seeing the contents of the box right now. It looks like there's quite a bit to the game. But it also looks like the creatures and like NPCs, monsters, things like that, as well as the heroes are standees. I have seen there are miniatures as well. So I'm assuming that the miniatures were in a Kickstarter pledge level because this was successfully Kickstarted. In fact, I shared a news piece back in the day when it was on Kickstarter. But I'm kind of curious, the $100 MSRP, does that include the character minis? Because if not, gotta be honest, 100 bones that's a hefty price tag. Although, if there's a lot of gameplay to this, maybe there is value to that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's got minis or not. That's what I'm saying. I would hope for that price it does. But all in all, this does look pretty interesting and pretty cool. All right. So MC says stay in school. They also just purchased the Time to Harvest as well. So they're very interested in the review. Hey, as long as you're not planning on playing it, if you're going to run it, that's one thing. If you're going to be in a game of it, I wouldn't be watching this video because there will be spoilers. As much as I try to stay away from them, there will be spoilers. Moving along, heading your way from WizKids next March is Marvel Age of Heroes. Here's the deets. Marvel Age of Heroes is an epic strategy game in which each player commands a duo of X-Men who are dispatched to defeat villains and complete objectives. Your team will collect resources and power-ups before embarking on dangerous missions in a variety of unique and challenging scenarios. Rodney Thompson, co-designer of Lords of Waterdeep, weaves the theme and strategy together through a mix of worker mutant placement, that's kind of funny, and resource management. The most effective team will manage their skills, train their mutants, and outpace the competition in the Institute and mission phase. Scenarios, asymmetric abilities, new abilities, and scoring conditions all serve to provide uncanny playability. Wouldn't that be replayability? Just guessing. Players' heroes are represented by a set of striking full-color acrylic standees. Find that kind of strange because this is from WizKids, home of HeroClix. Not sure why they're doing the standees. Teams include fan favorites like Wolverine and Jubilee, Jean Grey and Cyclops, Forge and Storm, and more. Cards and player boards have a gorgeous dreamscape artifact, as if a powerful telepath is seeing them through Cerebro. The Institute phase. Players will send their heroes to action spaces like the Danger Room or the Medical Bay to receive various benefits. Some action spaces on the Institute board let you increase your physical, mental, and willpower tracks, while others let you draw cards, play cards, or change the turn order. Additionally, over the course of the game, ally cards will come into play, revealing new action possibilities. Instead of performing actions at the Institute, heroes may be sent to the X-Jet to take on the challenges of the mission phase. That's right, we've got the mission phase. This is when players will put their teams to the test. Send your heroes out to the mission board or the extraction point, where you'll use the resources, skills, and powers you've accumulated to take on villains for even more effective strikes. Yes, come on. Bust out that cannonball. It's the Cannonball Express. That's right. Zoned out there for a second. It's the Cannonball Express. Each scenario presents entirely different challenges as you take on Sentinels, Magneto, and even Apocalypse. Scenarios can alter the composition of the Institute deck, which creates a rich thematic storyline. The deck features dozens of iconic X-Men characters and events that are available through a shared market. Players will be jockeying to collect and influence the heroes that are most useful for their strategies. As the board and scenarios evolve, your characters will as well. Special evolution cards add new abilities and scoring conditions. In addition to unique evolution cards, each team has a different starting resource as well as asymmetric abilities in advanced mode that make for high variety and replayability. Marvel Age of Heroes is going to be for 2 to 5 players, ages 14 and up, plays in about 60 to 90 minutes. It's going to carry an MSRP of $74.95 when it arrives in the first quarter of 2023 Yes, the game plan is March of 2023. Not sure if they're going to be able to stick to that, but that is their game plan. MC says shared market equals microtransactions. No, not in a board game. A shared market is essentially usually cards that are available to all players to purchase in the game, not microtransactions. So that's what a shared market normally represents. A lot of times, for an example, like, I was going to say Hero Quest, but that's not. Oh, Hero Realms and Star Realms. Prime example. Many deck building games, which it seems like this has a bit of a deck building aspect to it. Deck building games will usually have a shared market as well. So let's talk about some role-playing game news, because the big news, which was announced late last week, but I held on to it till today. Free League Publishing is now taking pre-orders for the Lord of the Rings role-playing game for 5e. Here's the latest. Middle-earth is opening up for new adventurers. Free League Publishing launched the pre-order for the 5e adaptation of the award-winning second edition of the One Ring RPG, entitled The Lord of the Rings Role-Playing, alongside the Shire Adventures Compendium. The pre-order gives immediate access to the complete PDFs of both volumes. Lord of the Rings Role-Playing is a 236-page hardcover volume that contains all you're going to need to create 5e adventures set in the world's most popular fantasy setting. 6 original heroic cultures from the land of Eredor, 6 new classes, a host of terrifying adversaries, and comprehensive rules for journeys, councils, wondrous artifacts, and the subtle magic of Middle-earth. Shire Adventures is a 104-page hardcover volume that describes the Shire in great detail, as well as 5 short adventures and 7 pre-generated characters, including famous Bagginses, Tooks, and Brandybucks. The contents of Shire Adventures are adapted from the starter sets for the One Ring role-playing game. The new edition of the One Ring RPG, set in the world of the Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien and designed by Francesco Nepitello and Marco Maggi, became the most successful tabletop role-playing core game ever on Kickstarter in March of 2021. Now Middle-earth is open for new role players with a brand new 5e adaptation. The 236-page core supplement can be pre-ordered right now for approximately $46.66. The 104-page Shire Adventures can be pre-ordered for approximately $35.85. Reason why I'm saying approximately is because of the exchange rate. So if you are pre-ordering it, you are pre-ordering it from Free League Publishing, although I am pretty certain that Free League now has a U.S. distribution point. So keep that in mind as well. You're not pre-ordering it and it's like, oh, great, it's coming from Sweden. Sweet. Alrighty then. Flaming Huron is with us in chat. Mr. Eddie T's popping out saying, howdy, howdy. So welcome to you both. On to the next news piece. Arriving in November for Pathfinder comes Lost Omens, Impossible Lands from Paizo Inc. Here's what I know. Imagine the impossible. In a land still scarred by a war between 2 undying archmages and their respective nations, reality defies the rules binding the rest of the world. Cities crafted by wishes and fields harvested by the walking dead lay in between lands where magic warps and twists with an undefinable will. Explore the history of immortal wizard kings, wield explosive and unusual technology, and channel awe-inspiring legends in a region where the present is still haunted by the past, and echoes of destruction still shudder across the minds and souls of those who brave the impossible lands. Right now, you can pre-order the hardcover. I do not have a page count on this. I am taking a guess. We're probably talking 240 to 260. That's my guess because the pricing is $59.99 for the hardcover. And that's usually ballpark for that page count for most of the kind of core Pathfinder books. You'll be able to get the PDF in mid-November. I think they're shooting for like November 16th. It's going to carry an MSRP of $41.99. Flaming Heron's pointing out, smash the like button, everybody. Every like counts or helps. That is true. That is very true. Helps spread the word about the Gaming Gang Dispatch and the channel itself as well. So I've got a final news piece. There is a new supplement for the Wicked Ones role-playing game, which is dropped. It's from Bandit Camp. You know, one time at Bandit Camp, I'm not going to go any further. Here's the scoop on Undead Awakening. Actually, let me grab a quick sip here. All of a sudden, I'm getting all like, blah, blah, blah. Undead Awakening is an expansion for Wicked Ones, an entirely new game built on the original monstrous foundation. Not tied to a dungeon, you instead take on the role of powerful, rotting undead who raise an undead horde to terrorize the living and spread evil across the land. You play out horror movie moments, leaning into classic tropes as you terrorize your victims and play to find out what's brought your undead scourge against the land. There's the undead conquest. Leave the dungeon behind, waging war against humanity in this new game mode. Raid your enemies in an aggressive 4 to 6 session campaign arc and grow in power along 3 domains: corruption, horde, and horror. There's the conquest phase. Zoom the game way out and focus on the overall ebb and flow of the war against humanity and the struggles along your domain fronts. There's conquest moves. Take action as your PC during this zoomed out mode, choosing where you can make the most impact each conquest phase. There are flexible campaign themes. Spread undeath across a broad range of settings that you choose and define, like an isolated fantasy town, a bustling modern metropolis, or a post-apocalyptic wasteland. The mechanics flexibly handle these genre shifts. It includes 3 sandbox maps, which are included in new expanded content. And there is loads and loads more. There are paragraphs and paragraphs about what is in this expansion. Now, the 76-page PDF, which I'll be very honest, I am not sure if that is a correct page count because I got the info from DriveThruRPG, and we do know from time to time, DriveThruRPG's page counts are absolutely incorrect. And taking a look at what's going to be the hardcover release of this, looks bigger than 76 pages, but I'm not sure. Regardless, the PDF for Wicked Ones Undead Awakening is available right now over at DriveThruRPG for $15. I've heard good things about Wicked Ones. Although I really have not gotten into the what do they call it? Forged in the Dark, I think is what they consider the system to be. So it is kind of based on those mechanics. So I have not really gotten into those and checked them out. To me, my understanding is it's got kind of a similar vibe to Powered by the Apocalypse games, which I have only dipped my toes into a little bit, although pretty cool. Pretty cool. I thought Apocalypse World was pretty decent. I've read through most of Dungeon World as well. But I've heard Wicked Ones is pretty cool. Now you can play as the undead. So there you have it. I had somebody ask if I was ever planning on covering Wicked Ones, and I don't do reviews of PDFs. I do believe that there is going to be a slipcase set. It's going to include Wicked Ones and Undead Awakening. If the fine folks over at Bandit Camp would like me to take a peek, I am more than happy to give it a review. That is for sure. 245 Trioxin is with us. Welcome back. Yes. So, Tessie Trekkie says the like button keeps flickering on and off. I swear I didn't do it. I have not done anything to it. All right. So I was just wrapping up there with a news piece about Undead Awakening, which is available over at DriveThruRPG. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to go visit, say, I don't know, DriveThruRPG, be sure to swing by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. All those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like this video, besides just smashing the like button, and you don't have to smash it, you can gently click it if you'd like. It's okay. You don't have to rage out on it. Anyway, if you like this video, maybe you dig the channel, feel that thegaminggang.com is a valuable resource. Hell, if you just, like what we do, you can always swing on over to paypal.me/thegaminggang and making a small donation. And thank you to all of you out there who use the banner ads and or stop by paypal.me from time to time. Thank you very much. Thank you kindly, everybody. All right. So we are going to dive into my review of Call of Cthulhu, A Time to Harvest, in just a few minutes. A couple things I did want to talk about real quick. Damn, it's weirdly dry in the Duct Tape Studios today. And it's not cold. I mean, yeah, of course, obviously it's October, so things have cooled off. But for some weird reason, the tip of my nose is cold. Like, what the hell is going on? Mr. Eddie T asks, do I get a portion of sales if they buy something on Drive-Thru Comics? So what you would need to do is you actually visit gaminggang.com, click on a banner ad. Doesn't matter if the banner ad's for Dungeon Masters Guild or DriveThruRPG. I know there's a new horror setting sale that I'm going to put up the banner ad to tonight when I finish the show. So when you go to one of those sites, let's say you go to DriveThruRPG, if you look down in the lower left, scroll down a little bit, you'll see all the different sites from One Bookshelf, and you can click on Drive-Thru Comics. If you do that, it'll keep the affiliate code from the site you were just at. So if you do that, yes. I really don't run banner ads for Drive-Thru Comics. I don't know. I mean, we do the comic news every week, but that's kind of it, right? I got to be honest. I mean, I get offers for PDFs, of course, for us to do comic book reviews. Tried it a little bit with some folks, and they kind of came and went. Speaking of reviewers coming and going, we have lost one of our reviewers, that's right, the madman's daughter, Samantha, is back in school, and I figured this would happen. So I shot her an email asking if she was still planning on doing any reviews, because I had sent her some stuff about a month ago. And she said, she just, just buried with classes. I'm like, okay. So I am always looking for reviewers. So if you are an RPG fan and you don't, have any issue with PDFs, which personally I don't, I like PDFs. I just can't share video reviews of PDFs because to me they're boring. Because it's like, hey, here's like 5 pictures we're going to look at for 15 minutes. No thanks. But always looking for role-playing game reviewers. Shoot me an email, drop me a line if you would like to get aboard. One of the cool things is Flaming Hero says she's concentrating on school. How dare she? Yes, I agree. School is important. That's why it's not like, I got to be honest. I wish she had told me a little sooner. I wish I didn't have to reach out and be like, everything all right? So Madman says, yes, he had hoped Samantha would be able to continue doing reviews. So did I. But the year has already started out to be pretty crazy, which that's how the world is. It's like, yeah, I'd like to be able to do this. I guess I can't. It happens. I mean, that's fine. I just would love to get some more reviewers. Even if Samantha was still reviewing stuff, I would like to get more reviewers because I just have lots of people asking for reviews of PDFs and digital materials, which, once again, I just don't do. So anyway, so there is that. Middle of the month, I am going to roll out a 50/50 sale, which is going to support Extra Life for Kids. It's highly unlikely that we're going to be able to do a game day, although it is possible. If I thought people would tune in for it, I would actually live stream for a few hours. I don't know who would be tuning in because it would kick off like Saturday morning. Maybe I'd run like noon to 6, something along those lines. Anyway, but I am going to have a 50/50 sale. Loads and loads of stuff. I didn't start it already because I'm still going through things. So it'll be middle of the month, and I am going to have some rock bottom prices on stuff because I'd like to get them in good homes rather than just sitting around here off camera. And also, half of what comes in is going to be donated to Extra Life for Kids. So it'll be part of that as well. So even regardless if I do a stream or not, I am going to do the 50/50 sale. I did a 50/50 auction last year. I just want to make things easier where it's like, hey, first come, first serve. You're like, yeah, I want that. I want that. Done deal. All right. Couple other things real quick. We've already kicked off the Gaming Gang October Spooktacular with a couple of old-time radio shows. Not super, super old. Talking 60s, 70s. But tonight, got another one all month long, every night, a new radio story, which I do a little bit of an introduction, a little bit of an outro to. So tonight will be Escape. I want to say, if I remember correctly, it's from 1947, and it is based on the H.G. Wells tale, Pollock and the Poor Man. So that'll be tonight. So that's at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock, that will be available. Tessie Truck, he says the 60s are 20 years before they were born. The late 60s is when I was born, so I wish I could say the same. And William Hell Has Eyes. I think that's what it's supposed to how it's supposed to be pronounced, is with us. Welcome aboard. I believe this is a first-time visit in chat for William. So thanks for coming on in. William says they were born in 68. I was born in 67. So just ahead of you by a wee bit. Also, other thing, once again, reviews every day throughout the month of October as well. Lots going on with the gaming gang throughout the month. And I might even do a little decorating. I don't have a lot of Halloween stuff. So I got a few little things I might pop up behind me. But once again, there's always that like separation. It's called bokeh, by the way. That's why if you're, depending on the size of your screen, the background is out of focus. That is intentional. So it's not like if I'm out of focus, that's not intentional. So Batman asks, do I need to borrow some Halloween stuff? Yes, because we are hopefully going to see a little video that I will share with everybody of the Madman's Halloween setup, which is supposed to be mighty impressive. I remember seeing, I think this is maybe 2-3 years ago, a very short clip. I was like, holy shit. It's like, and thankfully, if I remember correctly, the Madman has candy out front that little kids who are afraid to go further into the experience can get their candy as well. All right. Also, had some new videos. So I shot my review, or I shouldn't say review. I've already reviewed it. I shared a look at the paint box edition of Rackham Vale. So you can take a peek at that if you've missed it. And I also reviewed the Castles and Crusades Castle Keeper's Guide. I'm really liking Castles and Crusades. If I, like I pointed out a few times, if I were running a fantasy role-playing game, or if I wanted to run a fantasy role-playing game with an old school vibe, but with far more modern mechanics, Castles and Crusades would be my go-to. No doubt about it. Okay, so many of you are tuning in because I'm going to be reviewing Call of Cthulhu, A Time to Harvest, in just a few moments. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
What is it?
Say,
What is it?
hey, why it's Buttercup. Popcorn, add sweet cream butter to hot popcorn. Mix it up, wrap it up, Buttercup is born.
It's delicious.
So nutritious.
It's a taste delight.
It's so munchy,
Crisp and crunchy.
you'll enjoy each bite. Eat butter-drenched Buttercup, popcorn at its best.
Served in a king-size cup.
It beats all the rest.
What's your pleasure, sir or madam, and all you kiddies too? Sandwiches, freshly made from quality ingredients, soft drinks, cool, tangy, and refreshing. A hot dog? There you are, tender, juicy, done to a turn with some fixins. Hamburgers, ma'am? Just the way you like 'em, meaty, moist, and broiled to perfection. Soft drinks, kiddies? Take your choice, cold, tingly with flavor, all your favorite soft drinks for your selection. Something to eat for everyone, soft drinks to make your evening complete. Delicious, fresh, and satisfying to help your entertainment reach the peak of family fun.
Well, what was it, a fall or a strike?
Do you drink Wilkins coffee?
No.
Strike 3, you're out.
There's one sure way to beat that tired, thirsty feeling that naturally follows a hard day's work. Just stop in at your friendly Stag Tavern. Look for the sign of quality, Stag Beer on Draft, and order a cold, thirst-quenching glass of famous Stag Beer. There's nothing else quite as refreshing, as satisfying, and as downright good tasting, because Stag's flavor is the result of over a century of brewing experience. Notice Stag's rich, creamy head. Taste its can't-be-copied, smooth, dry flavor. It's America's first dry beer. Extra brew to give you that extra beer-drinking pleasure. Enjoy a cold, golden glassful of Stag Beer on Draft today at your friendly Stag Tavern.
Stag Beer. And there are just so many things wrong with that commercial. It's like two guys come walking out of the plant or wherever they work, and one guy points out, like, oh my God, I've never seen that before. The Stag Bar, or the bar that serves Stag. They walk in, looks like they're opening the door to somebody's house. They walk in, all that's in there are two taps. There's nothing behind the bartender but a wall. And then they turn the camera, they're showing the two guys drinking the beer, and there is absolutely nothing else there either. It's like, yep. So yes, William says a pop-up store. Yeah, that it's like, what the hell? So William also asked if I am into Steve Jackson games. Sorry to say, Steve Jackson games are not welcome with the gaming gang. They don't like me. I don't like them. So we do not talk about Steve Jackson games, even though way, way back in the day, I loved Steve Jackson games. When I was in high school and that, we used to buy everything that came out from Steve Jackson games. Oh, well. All righty. So I know folks out there are tuning in because they want to check out my review of Call of Cthulhu, A Time to Harvest from Chaosium Inc. It is written by Brian M. Sammons and Glenn Owen Barris. I swear I just want to say badass. But it is Glenn Owen Barris with Mike Mason and Lynn Hardy. Artwork is provided by Dan Barker, Alberto Bontempi, Alicia Cardell, Caleb Cleveland, Emmanuel Desati, FIFA Fiddoder. Yeah, I'm messing up all these names. Victor Leza, Pat Leboyko, Ernest Mason, Loic Muzi, Alexandra Patria, Lee Simpson, April Solomon, and Mally Ware. And that's a lot, huh? A lot of artists. This 336-page hardcover, I believe it is 336. We will double check. Is available with PDF. Carries an MSRP of $49.99. You get that PDF only if you order from Chaosium Inc. You can grab just the PDF alone if you would like over at DriveThruRPG for $25.99. So there is some discussion of the other Steve Jackson. Yeah, the other Steve Jackson from Fighting Fantasy fame. Ooh, that kind of rolled off the tongue, didn't it? I have no issues with. They're fine. All right, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got A Time to Harvest few things before we jump on in. Do want to mention the fine folks over at Chaosium Inc. were very kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the gaming gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this review with you. These days, it's very important that you know that. I'll also be staying picture in picture up here as usual. So as we take a peek through, I'll be cutting off a little bit of the upper portion of the book. We're not going to look at each and every page, but I do want to give you a good feel for the adventure campaign itself. Also, this is an adventure campaign for Call of Cthulhu. So if you are a player who is hoping that your keeper is going to run a Time to Harvest, then I would certainly recommend tune out now, because there are going to be spoilers. I stay away from major spoilers as best I can, but we are going to be taking a peek through this. I am going to be talking about this. There will be spoilers. All right. Anyway, let's take a look at the back. A Time to Harvest, Death and Discovery in the Vermont Hills. In 1929, a student died during an expedition in Vermont Hills. 1 year later, the Miskatonic University is sending another team back to Vermont. Includes a full 6-part campaign for novice and experienced players. A primer on the people and places within Cobb's Corners. Guidance for creating student investigators. Keeper and player resources, including a suite of handouts and maps, 10 pre-generated and ready-to-play characters, as well as advice for running the campaign with Pulp Cthulhu. This was first published as an original play series. Time to Harvest is available now for the first time in a complete and updated format, and it is for mature players. All right, let's dive on in. And yes, it is very true that this was an organized play campaign. So keep that in mind. You know, I got to be honest, I don't hear a lot about Call of Cthulhu organized play anymore. I'm sure it's out there, but I do remember this. I think this was the first that they were rolling out as a organized play at your friendly local game store. So we're going to dive on in. We've got a breakdown with the introduction and the campaign background. So this is a little bit different than many of the Call of Cthulhu campaign books from the past. And when I say from the past, I'm talking about 5 years ago, not modern Chaosium. Because as you can see, for 7th edition, things completely changed for Call of Cthulhu, especially in the presentation, and just the bang for your buck and just everything about Chaosium books really, really became top notch. Now, in the past, the adventures and everything were good. They were solid, but it was for decades, they all looked the same. So the way the adventures are presented as well is a bit different also. So back in the day, you get kind of a breakdown. Hey, here's the overview. This is what's going to happen in the campaign. We're going to break down chapter by chapter what happens, and then you would kind of dive into the first part of the adventure. And then you'd have your major NPCs and background detail and things like that also in those chapters. Here it's a little bit different. We're going to start off, we're going to get a bunch of background information about this campaign itself. Want to point out the big bads are the Migo. And I know some people out there are like, seriously, really? Aren't they overused? I've never overused them in my Call of Cthulhu adventures. I think I've used them once. Personally, I am a huge fan of A Whisper in the Darkness from H.P. Lovecraft. I think that is a fantastic story. And one thing that we see in A Time to Harvest is a lot more background about the Migo fleshed out. So all Migo aren't the same. So we're going to get different types of Migo. So here we have the visual presentation. We have their agents. If you're familiar with the story, they kind of disguise themselves as humans. So the Migo here, they're like really into biological experimentation, and they'll like change essentially their own construct by like removing claws and shrinking their heads and taking their wings off or adding wings on. So it's pretty cool. So we get a lot of information about Migo that is not just utilized in this adventure, but you can use in other stories as well. Flaming Heron says, great story, but as usual, a terrible ending. Yeah, we're going to get there. I am not going to give away the ending either. But yeah, that is one of my quibbles with this. So next, we're going to get a breakdown of where much of the action is going to take place. It is Cobb's Corner, or Cobb's Corners, I should say, which is in Vermont. We get a map. We're going to actually get a map and breakdown of the small town itself. And 3 chapters of the adventure do take place in Cobb's Corners. We're going to get a lot of information about the various different NPCs. And one thing that I thought is very interesting as far as Cobb's Corners is if you are a fan of films like Children of the Corn, The Wicker Man, what was that one that came out not too long ago? Is it called Somerset? I didn't watch it. Because I got to be honest, I'm not necessarily a fan of that style of horror. I think they call it folk horror, or they're kind of referring to it as folk horror. I remember watching the original Wicker Man, and I thought that was pretty bizarre. Midsummer. Thank you, William. So if you're into that, you're going to dig this adventure, because we have the Migo, but we also have these cultists who have essentially been in Cobb's Corners forever. Not forever, but for quite a long time, hundreds of years, in fact. So there's a reason why all of this produce comes from that valley, because Vermont isn't necessarily a great location for growing crops and things like that, because much of the soil has too much granite, if I remember correctly. Roll for Combat has joined us. Good to see you, RFC. Says that movie is messed up, Midsummer. I think that's probably another reason why I didn't see it. I guess I'm really, strangely enough, I'm a fan of Lovecraft, and I am a fan of a lot of mythos stories that don't necessarily have to be written by Lovecraft. But when they start getting into these like fertility cults and things like that, I don't know. It gets a little odd. Just like there is a short story by Stephen King that they made into a movie fairly recently. Along the same sort of lines. So it's either Stephen King or his son, Joe Hill. But I thought maybe it's both of them together. Once again, something I'm not like, not really my thing. Reanimator was great. Yes. I remember seeing Reanimator in the theater with my best friend. MC says, H.P. Lovecraft, brilliant writer, horrible person. I would say, I don't know if I'd use the word brilliant, but I would say horrible person. Well, let's be honest, there were a lot of horrible people back during that time. So it's not like well, according to Robert E. Howard, he did kind of stand out. So it's kind of telling when a racist thinks you're racist. So, all right. So we're going to have, essentially, we've got 5 chapters. We've got kind of an optional 6th chapter to the adventure. It is really more focused towards pulp Cthulhu, to be very honest. You can tweak it if you would like to include it in more of a classic Call of Cthulhu campaign. But if you're going more for kind of a traditional sort of Lovecraftian tale, you're probably going to end this at the 5th chapter. You're not going to play or run the final chapter as well. So what's going on is, as we saw on the back of the book, a year prior to this campaign kicking off, there was an expedition in Vermont. It's actually 2 purposes. One of the purposes, which is kind of a cool sort of subset of the adventure, at least in my opinion, is a geological survey, which is taking place, and it is for an oil company who will enter the proceedings as well. And that's always good. So William says, hi, yes, there was Ty Cobb of horror. Yeah, because Ty Cobb was a horrible person too. Anyway, so we have this this expedition that sets out, and tragedy strikes. One of the students, they're all Miskatonic University students. One of them is killed in a fall, and 2 other students disappear. And everyone else returns to the university. So a year later, they're going to set out again with a new group of students in which the player characters happen to be part of. They do not have to be students. They could actually be faculty as well. But it would probably be more appropriate if all of the players do take on the roles of students itself. Here we go. Federated Oil and Chemical. No, don't they all look pleasant? And of course, nothing is as it seems to be in the adventure itself. Turns out that the 2 missing students were actually abducted by the Migo, and there's a traitor in the midst of the students who return. Like I said, I want to stay away from a lot of the spoilers here, but I do want to give you a good feel for the adventure itself and show you the presentation of this also. I do want to talk about the complexity of this campaign. It is rather linear, like most Call of Cthulhu adventures and campaigns are. So for keepers, it should be fairly easy to keep things on track. Don't have to always, railroad players. But I've always found that with Call of Cthulhu, your players tend to be more open to being kind of led, as opposed to like a fantasy role-playing game where everybody's like, oh yeah, well, it's sandboxy. You don't get good horror stories in a sandbox. I know there are a lot of games out there. I say it all the time. A lot of games out there where it's like, oh, hey, you don't need a game master for this, and everybody, they're throwing in their own things. And I'm sorry, I have never seen anything like that be scary. Sure, it could be entertaining, but it ain't gonna be scary, Dooley. Not at all. So that said, where I feel that it should be pretty easy, even for some newer game masters, to keep things on track. I would not recommend this for new keepers to Call of Cthulhu. Now, on the back of the book, it talks about, oh, this is perfect for new and experienced investigators. And that is true. So the adventure itself, the campaign itself, I feel is just fine for new players to Call of Cthulhu. The issue I've got is that there are so many NPCs and there are so many threads that are running through this campaign that are all taking place regardless of the player character's actions, and that each of the chapters kind of requires certain things to happen to easily segue into the next chapter. I think it's a bit much for a new keeper to keep track of. Just my opinion. There is in the PDF, there is a section that makes things a little easier for newer keepers, but still, I would not necessarily recommend this as the first campaign that a new game master to Call of Cthulhu would take on. On the flip side, if you are looking to start an ongoing campaign that's going to include a lot of the classics of Call of Cthulhu, say like Masks of Nyarlathotep or Horror on the Orient Express, or both. You can have both. This is actually a really good campaign to kick those off. Now, if memory serves me correctly, Masks of Nyarlathotep is in the 1920s. This is 1930. There is nothing really here that you can't tweak to use this in the 1920s. You could actually even utilize this in modern Call of Cthulhu, or even tweak it a bit and utilize it for like a Gaslight era. Of course, you know, you would have to change a few things around. There are callbacks to A Whisperer in Darkness, or is it, I'm trying to remember, is it a Whisperer in Darkness or a Whisperer in the Darkness? Forget off the top of my head. You know the story I'm talking about. Right, so then we get some appendix here with new spells. We got our pre-generated characters and loads of handouts. And as you can see, all full color, all very nicely presented. There's even a pretty detailed section on Miskatonic University in here as well. Something else I'll point out, a lot of the action takes place in Vermont. And if you have never been to Vermont, I've been through it a few times. Flaming Heron says, A Whisperer in Darkness. Thank you. I was trying to remember if there was a the or not, or the, however you want to, roll that out there. MC's, oh no, I'm sorry. 245 Trioxin said, Heredity is a good one. It's another movie I kind of avoided. I just, no. And now it's funny too, because I have a friend of mine who refuses to watch any movie that has any sort of demonic possession in it because it just freaks them out to no end. And I guess it goes all the way back to when they first saw The Exorcist. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's not necessarily a genre that I'm huge on, but it's not like I'm like, oh, I'm not watching that. Anyway, I was going to say, one of the cool things is if you're not familiar with Vermont, or actually that area of the northeast of the United States, it's not heavily populated. So you can kind of like lay out that whole like folk horror vibe where it's not, and especially since this is taking place in the early 20th century, it's not as if the player characters can just turn around and race off to, some big city that's going to be nearby for help. So I like that aspect of it as well. Some people might not be too thrilled that this isn't a globe hopping sort of campaign, but there's plenty to keep the players occupied. Okay, so let's swing on over to the other camera. I'm going to share some final thoughts and give this a review score. Okay, so as Flaming Huron made reference to, the ending, especially if you're using the Pulp Cthulhu ending, I wasn't so super keen on. And in a way, I kind of think it's a little bit of a jip that the final portion of the adventure you may not even bother using. So and it's really aimed for Pulp Cthulhu. And if you don't run your Call of Cthulhu adventures with a pulpy style or specifically Pulp Cthulhu, you may have absolutely no use for the 6th chapter in the adventure. So the wrap up is a little weak. There's also a point in the adventure, it's later on in a later chapter, where it's kind of like another adversary is thrown in against the investigators. It kind of feels like it wasn't really needed. It almost feels like, I don't want to say overkill, but almost as if the writers felt, well, you know, the audience is going to expect this, so I guess we best present it. So I don't think that worked all that well. The Federated Oil and Chemical storyline is interesting, not necessarily the greatest, but the whole Cobb's Corners aspect of the adventure is excellent. It is super cool. And there are loads and loads of small tips on how to role play all of the various different NPCs. So that should make life easier. And all in all, it is a very interesting adventure. I just think it's far more exciting or unique earlier on than what we get to the end. So Flaming Heron points out, great premise to the story, doesn't need to be so long. It's a good adventure. Yeah, I would say that as well. Also, do want to point out that there's a lot of information in this book that can be utilized in other Call of Cthulhu adventures. So there is that. I always like when a game book contains not necessarily fluff, but material that you could use anywhere. So for an example, all the information about the Miko, you can utilize that in any Call of Cthulhu or Lovecraftian adventure that you're going to utilize Miko in. It's all right there for you as well. All in all, on a scale of 0 to 10, I got to say, I really do like A Time to Harvest, even with some of the quibbles. And I don't feel the ending is as strong as it could be, as well as I think that 6th chapter is not going to be used by a ton of players. I really didn't talk about it because I don't want to spoil it, because it is like kind of out there. So yeah, no joke, it's out there. But on a scale of 0 to 10, I give A Time to Harvest a very high recommendation. I give it 9 out of 10. Have some minor quibbles. I don't think it's the greatest campaign that Chaosium has produced. In my opinion, that's still Masks of Nyarlathotep, and the new edition of it is fantastic. But I'll tell you what, this is really, really good, and this is a perfect starting point for a group of new investigators or experienced players who are creating new investigators. So definitely check out A Time to Harvest for Call of Cthulhu from Chaosium Inc. Sweet. All right, that is it for this time out. So what's cooking the rest of the week? Well, as I mentioned before, role-playing games all month long. So each and every live stream is going to feature role-playing games that we're going to take a look at. Many of these times, I'm going to be reviewing role-playing games. So on tomorrow's show, I will be reviewing the player's manual for Hyperborea. Yes, from Northwind Adventures. So definitely check that out if you are curious about this new edition of Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea, or as they're like to say, Hyperborea 3E, with this edition. And then on Wednesday's show, I changed things up a little bit because last week I said I was going to review Book of Ebon Tides from Cobalt Press. And then I realized that I've actually had the Southlands World Book longer. So this is going to get a review on Wednesday's episode. So if you're interested in this, definitely tune in to check this out. Also want to mention the fine folks over at Modifius Entertainment have sent along the Fallout starter set. So we'll be peeking at this coming up. And I also have Axion Library for Old School Essentials. It's a collection of zines from Axion Spice, I believe. Yep, it's Axion Spice is the publisher. So we're going to take a peek at this. Looks kind of cool. This just showed up today. So these are things that are on the horizon. Yes. Alrighty then. So if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, ding that bell. It'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays right here on YouTube. It'll also let you know when I upload other videos, such as my review of the Castle Keeper's Guide for Castles and Crusades from Troll Lord Games. If you haven't checked it out, take a peek. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit gaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more that you won't find here on the YouTube channel, including the Gaming Gang October Spooktacular 2022. And I've got a new episode up tonight at 9 p.m. Central over at thegaminggang.com. Welcome back, everybody. Good to be back. I enjoyed my short hiatus, having last week off, but I am back, and October is going to be a lot of fun here at the Gaming Gang. All right. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. If you watched live, I appreciate that vastly. If you took part in chat, thank you as well, because not only are you keeping me company, but each other as well. So big tip of the cap and extra experience points for you there. But of course, I know a lot of people out there don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. I appreciate each and every one of you taking time out of your busy lives to watch any of the videos here on the YouTube channel. All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it happens to be in your neck of the woods. And I will be back tomorrow. So here's hoping each and every one of you gets to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.
Oh, hey, you're still here. Well, that's okay. You don't have to leave just yet. In fact, why don't you subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel right here, or take a peek at the latest live stream, or even find out what YouTube recommends you check out from the channel. And of course, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thanks again for watching.